the Patreon subscribers. Hope you're doing okay. So the dollar Swiss looks like it could be a sell, technically speaking. If we come to the Mataf website here, and we can see the dollar Swiss, we're going to get an interchange of the dollar and the Swiss here. We see the dollar is falling quite heavily. The Swiss franc is rising slightly. So we're going to have a dollar Swiss technical signal to sell. So that could be useful. And sentimentally, we are a sell because we're above 50%. Okay, your weekly open is there, so that could be a stop loss. And you target the SLC. The SLC was down there, but they just put their stops higher up. So it's now at 93. Okay, and the stop loss cluster above is at 94.30. So if we do get the interchange on that crossover, then this is going to be a technical sell. Sentimentally, it's above 50%, so it's a static sell. And they're going ever so slightly long, so that's probably going to hurt the dollar Swiss, and we're probably going to be targeting the SLC below, which is 78 pips away, right? But things don't go in straight lines. It's going to be naughty and zigzag first, and then that should be a good resistance, your weekly open. Okay, look at gold. I've got to remember to do gold because that's interesting. 1836. Okay. So you can see what happened. We've got a reaction there. Okay, got a new month as well. Let's have a look. The profitable traders went long. They went long here. So this is going to be an okay support. Some selling, buying. Apologies, back-to-back buying on the better volumes. So they really stepped in here, 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 even. So this is like institutional buying. So we'll move that box and we'll put it on a new box. Insert shapes, rectangle, back-to-back buying, which is rare. We don't see 3 hourly candles back-to-back. So I thought it was those 3, but it's not. It's this one, this one. So we know that at least this one. This is where the big boys stepped in. The banks and things. Yeah, so that does map that. So they bought here, and they bought here very aggressively. So 1826 is your daily open. So we have moved quite a bit. So we have taken out a little bit of liquidity. So the new one now is 1840, and one below might be safe at 1804. This is going to be of note because the buying pressure from the better volume. So this is the banks and institutions and the big pockets. Basically, they stepped in, really bought in succession there, and the dumb money have sold it. The smart money, the big boys bought as the dumb money was selling. You can see the ratio line. This is going down, so they're selling it, and it went counter to what this is saying. So they've got caught, I think, and now we're a buy at the big picture. 8 target long is at the SLC, so not a bad place to take profit, and then you can just like sit on your hands after a decent trade. Weekly open, yeah, so there's your target for a long and your target for a short there. So taking out a bit of liquidity on its journey, so perhaps we might want to get that. It might just bide its time a little bit before we get that. It might want it a bit larger. So we might be doing like this. See how we zigzagged down? We might be doing that. And then inevitably grab that one. And then we'll have technical resistance where you can TP if you've got a long bias and look to potentially short it. But ideally you'd want that to be above 50%. Okay. So dollar Swiss is done. Gold is done. Let's look at the dollar yen. And then we'll look at our major dollar pairs as well. So, okay. Oh, right. So that is really interesting. 135.68 was the stop loss cluster. It's obviously taken those stops. It's really horrible. 137. And so that's what you can say. We went the weekly open to the SLC. So target satisfied. Longer term target is here. Longer term target is here. Near term target here. I don't know if we're going to get the SLC below and the one above. We can do that because it's horrible and cruel. So that's a possible scenario. down. Then you look for a long above weekly open at 136.42 to target SLC. So you can place an order there to TP here, have a stop at 10 pips, and you're looking for a 5-hour trade. Okay, it's possible it's going to do that. Take those stops, and then just do that. And it's just going to be like a mechanic where it's just liquidity probes. And it's going to do that. So it's horrible, really, really nasty stuff. Possible scenario. EU. We just had the UK data. So yeah, I have to check that. That's what that beep was. I don't know if you had the beep. So EU to SLC above. There's your ATR target long. Weekly open, ATR target, SLC combination. Decent resistance, 106.50. And the one below is at 105.30. So technically strong resistance here. Okay, so that's job done for long. And short term done for the SLC, right? So we might come down and get the stop loss cluster below. I don't really want to comment on it. It should be going higher because of the sentiment, but we've got a very strong technical resistance plus stop loss cluster combination. So yeah, got to be careful with that one. Potentially strong resistance. But your monthly pivots there. We can exceed ATR target long. It's just a measurement using weekly data. So if we can exceed it, but it would be unusual. Pound. So we might see the dollar strengthen a little bit. So the one above, 121.50. One below is at 1.2. And, you know, this was the SLC and ATR target. SLC target, sorry, and so we went up, we pumped to get the stop loss cluster, and the new one there is there, so 121.50. Very choppy and sideways. We are ranging a lot. Ideally we want it above or below, and we're just going to probably just chop. Monthly pivot's there at 121.12. Okay, so look for a long above monthly pivot to target SLC. AU, and we'll look at NU. Okay, so the one above, which I think is going to be likely next week. If you remember yesterday's video, 69.25. One below, 67.40. And so yeah, because we're above the weekly open, we probably should be targeting the ATR target short, long. But if the stop loss cluster was closer, we'd be targeting that as well. But these are going to be safe because we can't exceed the ATR target long for that much. It's almost like 2 standard deviations above. It's double the distance. So they're probably going to be safe. But so we'll target these next week. And then lastly, NU. And it was basically a trap yesterday on the New Zealand dollar. I shall show you what happened on the bubbles. So yes, a big old trap here. That was probably a flush. One there is at 62.70. We've exceeded the ATR target long, which is something that the Euro USD might do. And the one below is at 61.20. I'll show you what happened on the bubbles. Right. So the New Zealand dollar was here. They went long. And what happened is that the New Zealand dollar bubble got larger. And so by getting larger, it tells us that the price was performing better. So they went long. They got punished initially. And then they must have taken profit. And so the bubble got larger, and then it moved gradually. And what happened is that they were trying to buy Kiwi, and of course by that action it made the bubble sell. And then as they were trying to sell it, because they're convinced on the price action, they don't have visibility of the bubbles, them selling it has pushed the New Zealand dollar over here, and it just didn't stop, and they were adamant on their shorts, and now we're here. So it was a trap here. We had a reversal because the bubble size got larger, and they are not aware of the sentiment, retail traders, and they're unaware of the the moves and the rationality of the of the price action. The driver for the price action is the sentiment, and so it came over here. And so if you're wondering what happened to the Kiwi dollar, it's basically a trap, like a bear trap, and then a bull trap and a bear trap. And this is what this currently is. Now what happened here is quite clever. I think, this is my theory, is that they got stopped out here, then they got stopped out again, and they won't want to get stopped out for a third time, so they're going to hold on to that bias. And that's the logic. So they don't want to get, you know, a terrible week. They'd rather just hold on to losses rather than cutting the loss and then reversing. So they got stung, and they don't really want to get stung again, so they're going to hold on. And that's the logic, okay? And so whether or not it's going to work out, we don't know for sure, but that's what I think is going on. So it did this planetary orbit thing, and what will happen is that it'll take stops, and once it's happy, we've taken lots of stops, and you know we have hit technical resistance, we can then go back and then come back, and then just, you know, take stops this way, take stops this way, and it just constantly fluctuates back and forth. So that's what I think is going to happen, and it'll get a little bit lower, and then the retail guys will go up, and then it'll be crush those guys. They'll come over here and crush those guys, and it'll just continue forever. And not just the New Zealand dollar, but every currency. Right, so you've got to be careful. And ideally, we want the dollar a little bit smaller because of where it is. If that gets larger, it's going to tell us a reversal on the dollar as well. So a little bit of information there, and hopefully it helps. And hopefully you understood the logic in the Discord, how I described what happened in the New Zealand dollar, and it did exactly as forecast. And look at the price action, up over 1% today. So, you know, nice trade there if you called it. Pretty horrible, and that's that move there. That's the trap mechanic there, which we saw on the bubble when it did this. All right, so that movement here was this. Boom. Okay, so that's that. So have a good day. I'll speak to you guys soon.